Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hillside. Today, topic for you is going to be locating compost piles. If you live on a hillside or have a very sloped or steep backyard, just some of my observations and things I've learned over time by doing this, and also kind of give you a perspective of um, keeping your garden in mind that your garden is a system. If you think of it more in the permaculture terms, everything works together in a system. It's not just independent or um, selective plants just growing on their own. Everything is connected. And I want to kind of wrap that back around to the way I do my composting. So if you see this pile right here, now this is fresh, started this spring. It's got some pine needles, some weeds I pulled back over here, leaves where I cleaned out the flower beds, and some grass clippings that one of the neighbors set out for the road. So of course I snagged those for some early season green material for a compost pile, which is typically hard to find this time of year. But it's doing fine. This is, like I said, it's about a week old, so it's nowhere even remotely ready for use in the garden. But as you come down here, and this is the slope in my backyard, and you get to this first pile here, and you really can't tell because the leaves kind of camouflage it, but here's the first compost pile here. Now, kind of zooming back out, see the frame right here, like the raised bed frame where my greenhouse used to be, which is now just kind of the framing the garden. But the first pile here, what happened is it was over here, and then I flipped it from there to the bare spot there. Then after a couple weeks it was flipped to here, which is now inside of the garden, and from that another pile was flipped to right here. You probably can't, these leaves aren't doing it justice, but this pile here is much more broken down than this pile here, which you really can't tell, but trust me, I wouldn't make it up for you. But anyhow, so then as you progress down the hillside, you get to the other bed, which is the other edge of the garden here. If you kind of get the perspective of this zooming out, it kind of starts up here, flip to that bed, flip to there. Here's the other edge where the greenhouse was. Now it's just a raised bed, kind of a framer, right? Well, then as you step down here, this is a row of my garlic there, and you're stepping farther down, and you step farther down. And as you see this compost and this, how dark this soil is, I mean, this was dark, hard red clay. It's now full of compost, full of worms and organic life, etc., etc. And if you see some of the grass there, it's actually perennial rye that I planted as a cover crop last year that I kind of turned under. Anyways, and then from there, you get to the real back slope there. So it catches it right here. And then, of course, these weeds and plants with material act as a filter. So looking at it as a big picture from there, to make the early investment with your time and labor, bring your materials, organic materials, whether it be manures, compost, pre-made compost, coffee grounds, leaves, grass clippings, whatever you're using to make your compost with. Start at the highest point that is feasible. Okay. Now think about this. People are going to say, well, if you start here and you live on a hillside, isn't nutrition and stuff gonna run off? Answer is yes, because it rains here seemingly every day. Zone 7A, 6B, western part of West Virginia here, and so as the rains come and natural erosion or whatever takes place, it's going to flow from here. It's going to flow down. Okay, and what's going to do is going to get caught by the first terrace, if you will. So material is going to back up there, and as over time, and you flip your compost farther down, it's going to go into this, inside of the garden. So worst case scenario, as it breaks down, it's feeding the soil in your garden. Okay, next best thing is once it gets more prepared, you're able to turn that, and then use it as needed, filling in your beds, or if you have some containers, you're going to come get them, from your garden. That's fine. But now, as it comes down here, you have another break with this right there. That terracing right there is going to stop some more of the flow. It's going to come to here as it drops down, and I believe if you ever watch Jeff Lawton, he's a brilliant guy, talks a lot about permaculture, and he talks about developing things on contour. What this is basically what he has in mind is, as it's coming down, water and nutrition is going to be trapped at each successful level. So as it comes here in between the row of garlic and the first raised mound of soil, anything that happens gets trapped down there. It acts as a buffer. Then it goes from here as another buffer. Here with the terracing timbers, final buffer. And then as it goes downhill, typically on the outside of this row here is I'll plant something like squash or zucchini or cucumbers or something that vines. Let that kind of dews at once, and it's kind of vying over this whole side right there, acting as yet another filter, and it's going to catch all the leftovers that come through the system. So thinking of your garden as a system is something that's very beneficial. You got to think of it just as the big picture and how everything works together, how it's all interconnected. Okay. So hopefully I give you a little bit insight, in case you live on a sloping area, or if you have a backyard hillside like I do. Like I said, it's going to be hard at first, but take the initial investment of your time and labor and start at the highest point you possibly can. And from there, when you're flipping your piles, you're flipping them downhill, flipping them downhill, flipping them downhill. So you're letting gravity help you out. Okay. So yeah, it's a lot of work. You do need some strong legs and a strong back to live on a hillside, work on a hillside, and garden on a hillside, especially if you're doing it this way. Um, and I do everything by hand. I don't have any power tools. I don't use tillers, anything like that. Basically, this garden fork's all I need now. Once I got the original clay busted up, I use this to basically sift my compost and flip it, and just barely loosen up the soil like I did down here with the kind of turning in the cover crops I had from last fall. So that's the extent of the plowing slash tilling that I'm going to do. And from there, just add compost on top and go from there. So I hope this was informative and helped you guys out. If you did find this informative, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Leave some comments and thumbs up. I would much appreciate it. So from my hillside to yours, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, wherever you may be. So we'll see you next time. All right, guys. Thanks.